from a retiree's point of view, if I could go back to my 55-year-old self and give them one piece of advice, what would it be? Have a plan. Mm-hmm. That would be the main thing. And when I say a plan, I don't mean, well, I'm going to work till I'm 62. I'm going to quit my job, take my pension, file for Social Security, and sit on my butt. That's not a plan, right? I'm talking about a comprehensive, there's that word that we hate again, plan for here's what I'm going to do, here's when I'm going to do it, here's how I'm going to do it. That way I have something to look forward to other than not working anymore.
What retirement is really like day to day.
Yeah.
Or one of the biggest things that a lot of folks will not tell you, and I've had this conversation with a number of clients, especially with husbands and wives, and they always kind of say it in kind of a lighthearted way, but it is an adjustment. It is a huge adjustment in your day-to-day life, not only for yourself if you're retiring, but maybe for your spouse as well. Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Retirement Planning Happy Hour. Eric Douglas, Chris Vaughn, Family Wealth Planning Partners. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a part 2 episode today. I think this might be the first one we've had in a very long... I was
about to say, we've never actually followed through and done a part 2 that I can remember.
But yeah, we're going to do a part 2 of pick up the discussion of what we started last week, where we were talking about kind of preparing for and living in retirement and how best to do that, and some words of wisdom, if you will, from some clients that we've had, and best practices and things that we've gleaned from all of the years of working with clients as we help them to prepare for and live in retirement. Right. Not so much necessarily about the financial stuff, although some of that is included, but more so some of the other miscellaneous stuff around it that a lot of folks don't always take into consideration as they enter into that last territory of their life, or one of their last territory. What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, you had it right the first time.
Yeah. So
the final frontier.
The final frontier, one of the last final frontiers. I don't want to put it that way, right? But because you can break up retirement into different pieces, so I don't want to make it sound quite that final. But definitely as you make the leap into that next phase of your life, I should say, is probably the most elegant way of putting it.
There you go.
Talking on the fly isn't always my best strong suit, right? So probably not great.
It's going to be one of those shows.
Probably not great for a podcast host, right? But with that, I'll let you introduce the bourbon, because I know this one was one that you picked out, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I will let you take it from here.
So I'll probably go a little bit longer than I normally do on this segment. So this is a bottle from Old Louisville, which is right here in Louisville. This is, first of all, this is Amin and Beth. Their last name popped out of my head. It's actually on the bottle. Karaoud, or I'm probably saying their names wrong. So Amin, Beth, I'm so sorry. I'm saying your names wrong. I have met Amin multiple times over the years at different events. He is just one of the coolest guys. He actually has a degree in chemistry. So the way that he deals with bourbon is very logical and mathematical. And you would think, well, that's a bad thing. No, it's not, because there's an artistry too. Amin is the guy that actually told me, he said, have you ever noticed that when you're having a bourbon, sometimes you might taste little notes like cotton candy? And everybody that's in the group, he's like, yeah, I've had that. And he said, that's not just in your head, that's real. And where it comes from is the actual chemical strands that you get in cotton candy, and that's just an example. The same chemical strands are in that bourbon, and that's why you're tasting these things. So it's not just your imagination. Mm-hmm. It's amazing the things that you pick up from your imagination, but it's also, there's a lot of stuff in here that's very much real. So anyway, Amin started this company several years back. It's Old Louisville Whiskey Company. They, like I said, they're right here in town. They do source their bourbon. I will not say from where. I don't think that's fair. But he does.
You might want to say, what does that mean?
Okay, so sourcing.
I know them, but
for those of you that don't know, the vast majority of bourbon that is out there is sourced.
It's very, very common.
Right. So there are only a handful of major bourbon distillers. And I suspect this is true with other spirits as well. But What a sourcer does is they go out and they buy barrels from the sourcing distillery. Mm-hmm. So the big sourcing distilleries would be Bardstown Bourbon, Buffalo Trace is a huge sourcing distillery. There's a handful of them out there.
The biggest names.
Those are the big names. But you go out and you buy the barrels from them that meet whatever the criteria is that you're looking for. And then you age them, or you do a secondary barreling, or whatever it is that you do, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what we mean when we say sourcing. But anyway, when Amin does a barrel pick, he does it differently. So a group that I am in decided to do a barrel pick with Amin, and it happened to fall on a day where we were teaching a workshop, and I did not get to go. And I really wanted to. Well, one of the guys in the group called me up the next week, and he said, hey, there's a different group that's going over to do a barrel pick, and I know you missed it. Would you like to go? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'd love to jump in on that and go see his operation. So he does it differently. Normally when you do a barrel pick, so you and I and 4 or 5 other people would go in. The distillery will pull out, 5, 6, 7 barrels, and we'll sit there and taste all of them, right? Amin has 5, 6, 7 barrels already pulled before you get there. And he takes a whiskey thief, and if you don't know what a whiskey thief is, it's a big copper tube with a hole on the top and the bottom, right? You just stick it in, get a little bit, you put your thumb on the thing, and you drip it right into your glass and taste right out of the barrel. So he does that. We go through all of that, but you do not have to buy the whole barrel. If you say, you know what I mean? I don't want to buy that whole barrel. That barrel's going to yield, 200 bottles, 150 bottles, or whatever. It's going to cost me 9, 10, 11 grand to buy that. I don't want to buy that. But you know what I would like? I would like a bottle out of it. He has a hand pump that he will stick into that barrel and pump it directly into the bottle. You'll get the char. There's no filtration or anything.
Which, by the way,
is what you're looking at.
We can't zoom in, but there is definitely some char at the bottom of this, and I got a little bit in my drink.
Did you? Okay.
Which is fine. I've already tasted it.
Totally unfiltered. Yeah. But anyway, this is one that I picked out. I did not want to buy the whole barrel.
Yeah.
And the guys that I was with were not going to buy the whole barrel, but this is a wheated bourbon that he did. It is a 7-year-old product. What's really neat, you can't really see this, but Eric, I'll show it to you. The batch number, he actually put my initials on there. So this is a unique bottle. If you went back, I did this, I want to say it was spring last year. I actually haven't tasted this since, within a couple of weeks of the time I got it. He put it in a nice little bag here for you, which is really cool on your bar. But I do remember this being a really delicious bourbon. Like I said, it's a wheater. It's 116 proof, so it's not screaming hot. But anyway, that's what we're drinking today. And if you get the opportunity to go over and do that experience over at Louisville, it's off Popper Level Road, definitely take advantage of it because it's a neat experience.
Was this the only bottle that you
This
bought?
Is the only one of them that I bought. So that's where I was kind of going with that. If that barrel is still there and you go back over there and you say, I want to buy a bottle out of that one, it'll taste different because it's a year longer in the same barrel now.
Well, let's, I guess, foreshadow a little bit.
Okay.
If you can go back and get one out of that same barrel,
So I should go get another one. Okay, fair enough.
After a couple sips here. So with that, we will come back and do our formal review here in just a bit. But to continue on in the conversation that we started last time, right? How to best prepare for and live in retirement and some of the things that you need to consider. We're not going to rehash what we talked about last episode. Go back and listen to it on the podcast feed. However, let's just pick up fresh from where we were.
Okay.
And I think really the next part that we wanted to talk about, because we ran out of time last time, was what retirement is really like day to day.
Yeah.
Or one of the biggest things that a lot of folks will not tell you, and I've had this conversation with a number of clients, especially with husbands and wives, and they always kind of say it in kind of a lighthearted way, but it is an adjustment. It is a huge adjustment in your day-to-day life, not only for yourself if you're retiring, but maybe for your spouse as well. Mm-hmm. So I've seen this numerous times where one spouse is already retired. Maybe they were a stay-at-home mom, dad, or they were already retired, but they had already gotten used to somewhat of a routine on their own while their other spouse was still working.
Right.
And now the other spouse retires. They're both retired. They're both in this house, kind of cooped up in this house all day long. and it can cause some friction. It does cause some friction.
I got a great story for you.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of, and I don't think it's not necessarily causing divorces or anything like that, so I don't want to exaggerate too terribly much. But I have seen conversations in the office that I've been a part of.
Absolutely.
Where the wife is telling the husband, you need to do something. You need to get out of the house.
You need to get away from me.
Like I need, this is my routine, and you're infringing upon my routine. This is what I do. I've already set my routine. Like you need your own routine.
Right.
And it goes along the lines of you need to be retiring to something. But we see that a lot. Marriages are affected. I'm not going to say poorly. Right. That's not necessarily what I mean.
But they are affected.
But they are affected because all of a sudden it's a new living situation. You've created a quote-unquote normal over the course of 30, 40 years, however long you might have been married at the time that you go to retire. This is a new normal. And it's new for everybody, and it's not just new for you going into retirement, but it's new for your spouse as well. We see it a lot with work from, especially since this is a new thing over the last few years, ever since COVID, right? The whole work from home idea.
Right.
Well, if one spouse retires and the other was working from home and they haven't retired yet, I have seen this. Well, now they have a spouse that's kind of lingering around the house all day while they're trying to get work done.
Exactly.
Right? And so you see these dynamics play out, and you see these conversations, and they're always very lighthearted. So I don't want to make this to be a bigger thing than it is, but it is a discussion point that probably you need to prepare for.
Yeah.
Because this is very real, and I have had this conversation multiple times. So you said
well, I've got several stories. Just as an example of what you're talking about, for those of you who are not retired yet, you can probably relate to what I'm going to tell you. In my household, right? Now, we've got one in college, and we got one that's a senior in high school. So in a way, we're about to be empty nesters, kind of, right? Especially with both of them away at school. If you know me, I'm an extreme extrovert. I've got to go. I got to be around people, and I'm a talker, right? My wife, God love her, could not be more opposite. If she goes all day long and only says 3 words, that's 3 words more than what she needed to. So we are learning as our boys are so involved in sports and activities and all that stuff. They're not at home, and it's just the 2 of us. And I want to talk, and I want to do something, and we can do this together. We just watch a TV show. We can, something as simple as pull out your Instagram feed and find something funny to laugh about, and I'll start going, and she will go, you need to go out in the barn and do something. You're making me crazy. Now, okay, I think most of us can relate to that. Now, amplify that when you're retired because now it's permanent, right? So the story that I would share would be my parents. So mom was a teacher. Dad was a real estate broker. Dad retired, kind of. He ended up going back into it a little bit. But when he retired, everything was great. He had a woodworking shop, and he would just sit out there and work with wood all day long. He was happy. Then mom retired from being a teacher, I don't know, a year and a half later. I don't think he made it 3 months until he got a job delivering pizzas at Papa John's to get him out of the house. He didn't need the money, but it did give him money that mom didn't know how much he made in tips, so he could go blow at him whatever stupid stuff popped into his mind. And she saw him doing that, so she wasn't retired a year.
Yeah.
She went and got a job at Kohl's, just working 2 or 3 days a week.
Get the Kohl's cash.
Just ringing people up, and she got the Kohl's cash, and everything that we got for Christmas, birthday, everything, for 17 years was in a Kohl's box.
Oh, that's funny.
Mom's been gone for 5 years, and still Christmas and birthdays when the family gets together and somebody opens a present, there's about an 80% chance it's in a Kohl's box.
Has it been 5 years already?
Yeah, it's been 5 years.
It's been 5 years.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, but anyway, that's my point. They did not plan, and they enjoyed doing things together.
Yeah.
But they didn't kind of plan on what was going to happen when suddenly they're not going to work every day and that routine changes. And they got bored very quickly, and they also realized, I love you, but you got to go away. Mm-hmm. You got to leave me alone for a little bit. There's an old Guns N' Roses song that's popping into my head that I will not repeat right now. You know which one I'm talking about. But yeah, you have got to plan for the fact that your routine is going to change. And if you don't have a plan of attack for what you're going to do with that, the worst thing that I hear people say when they come in and I say, so what's retirement look like? And they kind of stammer out, okay, let me kind of rephrase it. What are you going to do when you retire? Whatever I want. Okay, well, technically you're right.
Yes.
But what do you want to do? And they can't answer. And it's like, okay, you're not going to enjoy retirement because you don't have a plan of attack. And I think that's the big thing that people overlook on this one.
So you're talking about introverts and extroverts. This
Yeah.
is a total sidebar, by the way.
All right.
I finally saw an article last week that told me what I am. Because I've always said I'm not really an extrovert, but I'm not an introvert either.
No, you're a hybrid.
So I've always been a hybrid.
What did it say?
Well, there's a term for it now. Omnivert.
Oh, what?
Omnivert.
Okay. All right. I get that.
So like I'm the tweener, right? And there's finally a word for me because I can definitely go off and, hang out by myself and I'm totally fine, throwing the headphones on and just, but I also I'm also someone who is very well aware that I can go down a rabbit hole doing that very, very quickly, and I need interaction. I need to come into the office, right? And COVID drove me nuts because I
Exactly.
screwed up my routine, and I needed to be around people. I needed to be around you all and clients and just people. So I'm one of those tweeners, and we finally have a word for it now. So
a word to describe.
I've read this article, and I was very
omnivert. I like that.
I was very excited to read this article, and there's a term for me now. So I was very happy to see that. But total sidebar.
That's okay. We like those too.
But anyway, so kind of along those same lines, but balancing rest and purpose.
Yeah.
So some people think, oh yeah, I'm going to lay around all day and I can be lazy. And the happiest people I know don't do that. The happiest people in retirement. Now, maybe they're not getting up at 6 a.m. every day,
right?
But they are getting up and they're doing things. They're maintaining a schedule. Mm-hmm. There's somewhat of a routine, and a lot of times it does involve the happiest clients I see are the ones that go to the gym pretty regularly, maintaining physical fitness. And this is something we probably don't talk about nearly enough in our industry because we spend so much time talking about financial well-being. Physical well-being,
it's important as well.
It's extremely important, especially when you're talking about your happiness and your activity levels. And everybody wants to do all this traveling, and we're going to come down to this in a minute too. But if you want to do all that traveling, well, you got to be in shape,
right?
To some degree, you got to feel good enough to be able to do all that stuff, right? So balancing, that balance between, yes, absolutely, you shouldn't be working yourself to the bone by any means, and that's why we do go to retire. But you still need some purpose. So balancing the two, rest and purpose is certainly very, very, very big.
Well, I would kind of expand on that a little bit. If you think about it, for the average person out there during your working years, you work 5 days a week, and then you have a 2-day off period on a week in and week out basis. And something that I do just to maintain my own physical and mental health, one of my weekend days, I don't do anything. Right now, when I say I don't do anything that requires work or labor. Right. I will sit around and watch ball games on TV, or I will enjoy time with friends or family, but I'm not working. And then the other day, I'm working most of the day, right? I'm getting things done around the house or whatever it is that needs to be done. But the point is that I've got some scheduled rest time in there, and it helps keep you healthy. Yeah. In your retirement years, that's no different. You need to have that scheduled rest time. If you're like, okay, so my wife and I, when we go on vacation together, just the two of us, remember, she's an introvert who is perfectly comfortable just sitting and relaxing. I got to go, because that's how I relax. Mm-hmm. I go enjoy, and I do. You do need to find that balance, especially for married couples where you're like Kathy and I, where we're just polar opposites.
Well, it was interesting you say that because so my wife and I, did a pretty long trip to Europe, to France, to go see my daughter who was doing a study abroad thing. So we were down in Strasbourg and Paris and did a couple other things too. But it was interesting. I think my wife learned a little bit about me because, we always do with the kids, you always have to take the beach vacations, and I'm not a beach guy.
I'm not either.
I'm just not a beach guy. Like, it's okay for a day maybe, but I can't go spend a week just laying around on the beach doing nothing. I get bored out of
One day I'm good.
I get bored out of my mind. I can't stand it. Yeah. Plus, I'm very, very white.
Yeah. You can't stand it because you get burned, right?
So that doesn't help either. But she saw me when we went to Europe, and like every day it was like, okay, let's go.
Right.
We're here. Let's go see everything. And just like we walked so much. I don't remember how many thousands of steps that we walked every day. I mean, we were putting 25, 30,000 steps a day.
A day, right.
Which is awesome. It was very fantastic, but I was never bored. I was never feeling physically tired because I was like invigorated. Like, this is fun. This is awesome. I get to see history. And so I think she saw the juxtaposition of, my feelings about doing the traditional beach vacations and then seeing me like go to Europe and, kind of always being on the move. And to me, that was far more fulfilling. I had far more fun doing that. Not to say that I don't like the beach vacations, but when we talk about beach vacations, I typically like everything about beach vacations except for the beach.
That's kind of a major part of it.
Yeah, but the whole vibe and the stuff that you kind of do there, that is all fun. But the actual beach itself,
I'm with you. Beach day. So we've had this discussion. Kathy and I like to go on cruises. To me, the great part is there's a beach day, but it's 4, 5, 6 hours, and then we're done, right? And I've got my fill. I'm good. Now, Kathy, on the other hand, I think she's a lot like Sarah. She can go get a book and an umbrella, and she can sit on the beach all day from morning till night. It's like, I'm 2 hours in. It's like, all right, baby, let's go do something else, right? So, all right, anyway, we're going down a lot of sidebars today.
That's okay. So we talked about work identity. Yeah. And this kind of goes along with what we've already been talking about, but this is kind of a different way of phrasing it. It's something to be very, very aware of. And I'm probably going to be very guilty of this myself when it comes time for me to start thinking about retirement, because so much of my life, so much of my livelihood, I love what I do. Yeah. That probably doesn't help in this situation to some degree. But a lot of my identity is tied up in my work because I love my work and I work a lot. Not that I have a very healthy balance, so I don't want to make it sound like I'm a workaholic. I'm absolutely not. But I do work. I like what I do. And it's not going to be something that I can probably easily retire from, because a lot of my identity is wrapped up into what I do, and I enjoy it. And so a lot of folks are in that same boat, and it's very important that you are cognizant of the fact that you have a work identity and not too much of your identity is wrapped up in what you do, not who you are, because you hear so many stories. You hear so many stories about, where you hear like people that finally retire. Ozzy Osbourne was probably a perfect example of this, who absolutely went out on top, right?
Oh, yeah.
He had that massive final show. Yep. It was a big final retirement show, and then was it 3-4 days later he passed away?
It was the same. It was July this year. Yeah.
Yeah, it was it was the same month. I don't remember. Right. It was like a week or two later, but it was almost immediately after his final performance. Like, he was kind of holding on. But he was it was rock until the end. Right. Man, it was awesome. But, Joe Paterno, Penn State, I know that was another thing. He'd been working for so long. His entire identity was what he did. He was the football coach at Penn State.
Bear Bryant at Alabama, same thing.
Bear Bryant at Alabama.
He died a year after he retired.
It's a very, very common tale where it's like, okay, you finally go to retire, but your whole identity was wrapped up in what you did, and then you just don't really feel complete. And we see it it's just like it's almost an immediate like deflation of your sense of self, and you see people pass away. I don't want to say it's necessarily because of a broken heart or anything. I don't know what it is necessarily. I don't know the science behind it, but you just see it so often where people move into depression and retirement because so much of their identity was tied to their work.
I think a big part of the problem there is, and I'm in the same boat that you're in, I love what I do. I look forward. I mean, there are bad days. Make no mistake.
Well, and luckily, we're also not going to a coal mine either, right?
So right. Yeah. It's not like our job is physically demanding. Yeah. It's not. I love what I do. I look forward to doing it for much longer than what most people would want to work. There's a statistic that says that only 7% of the population in the United States likes what they do. Well, you and I are both very blessed in that we're clearly in that 7%. The other people are the ones who are looking so forward to retirement because they're tired of the job. But if your identity is in what you do, like ours is, one of the things that I would point out is while you're still working, find some other things that you can do that are not just hobbies. Hobbies are part of it. What are some other things that you can do that are part of your identity? Right? Something that I've been trying to do over the last few years is just kind of branching out into other things that either I enjoy doing or it's something that I have a talent or a gift in this area and I'm just trying to give back, and I'm trying to find ways that I can identify other than what I do. I would tell you that I've been not very successful for the most part, but I'm trying it now, and I'm still, 15, 16, 17 years away from my target retirement date. I'm trying to find that now. What you don't want to do is find it after you've already quit your job. And to your point, you end up in that depression and you have no purpose anymore.
I will add one specifically for the dudes listening.
All right.
And trust me when I say that I am as guilty of this as literally anybody. So this is probably talking to myself more than anybody that might be listening. But, maintaining good, male friendships.
Yes.
Because you don't want to probably be hanging out with your wife all day long. You would kind of want to go do
your
stuff
wife
and have
won't
people
want you hanging out with
but
her
you're going to
all day
need
long.
people to do stuff with, right? And so, maintaining pretty good male friendships outside of work would definitely be something that you probably want to start working on.
I'm glad you pointed that out because guys are not by their
we're
very
notorious.
nature.
We're notorious for it.
It's just not something we do.
And I'm talking to myself more than anybody else. I'm very
guilty
of it as well. It was one thing. It was in college, where you're kind of surrounded by people and there's always a party and people to hang out with, and you have kids and kind of all my friends have kids and it's like, oh, hey, let's do something. Oh, well, I got this and I got that, and it's tough, right? And so some of those friendships have kind of, I don't want to say fallen to the wayside, but they're not nearly as strong as they probably used to be or should be, and that's something I do kind of look forward to gaining back a little bit when the kids are maybe a little bit older. But it's definitely something to be cognizant of prior to retirement, because you're going to need friendships. You're going to need, people to hang out with and people to do things with.
That kind of segues into another one. Relationships with family is another one that I think people kind of screw up. So you've seen this one too many times. If you're listening or watching, you're probably either guilty of it yourself or you got a close family member who's guilty of this. I know you've seen this a million times. What are you going to do when you retire? I'm going to spend time with my grandkids. Okay, what else are you going to do? I'm going to spend time with my You just don't understand. I am all about them grandbabies. Okay, I'm not going to argue with you.
Them grandbabies going to get sick of you too.
The grandbabies are going to get sick of you. And you know what? Kids grow up.
Yeah.
I'm at that point now because of the age of my kids. I have a great relationship with both of my boys. I mean, we're tight. And we will, when they are adults in their own right, without question, we will be friends. But they're at that point now where there are people that are not me that they would rather spend the bulk of their time with. Sure. You know what I mean? I'm not the girlfriend or the guy they like to hang out with. And, so if you think that in retirement you can reassert yourself into that family dynamic, you're probably sorely mistaken. I do hear this from people going, well, we're going to have the grandbabies over all the time. What happens when they get a little bit older and they don't want to be part of that, right? Yeah. Then what are you going to do? We're not talking about something that lasts for 30 years. Kids don't grow up over a 30, 40-year window like you might be retired that long. So what are those relationships going to be like? If and this kind of goes back to what you were saying a minute ago, guys, having those male friendships. Okay, well, my best friend is my son. We always got along. Okay, you know what?
Stop it.
You're retired and your son is going to be working full time.
Yeah.
Right? Can't do it with you all the time. My dad kind of leaned on me when he was still healthy enough to do it. He wanted to play golf all the time. Now, he didn't start playing golf till he was in his 60s. Right? He still thinks he's good. And it's like, Dad, no, you were never good. Okay. I can say that. I know he's not listening, but I've said it to him anyway. But in order to make his life a little bit easier, I had to play from the senior tees when I was in my 30s.
No,
I should not have been playing from the senior tees. It's different. I did it so that he would enjoy it, not because I wanted to.
Are you saying you should have been at the ladies' tees?
There were days I definitely should have been at the ladies' tees. It's a really bad, another sidebar. There's a joke that all guys say when you tee off, if the ball doesn't get past the ladies' tees, there is a certain thing that you have to do for the rest of that hole. What happens if you're at the senior tees and you don't get it past the ladies' tees? There needs to be another rule there. Anyway, just on the family dynamic. Families change. I have a relatively small family. I have two sisters. Each one of them has two kids. My wife only has one brother. He has three kids. At one point in time, when we were younger, we were closer. We were closer to our parents, so on and so forth. But as life has gone on, It's not that we're not friends. I'm actually very close to both of my sisters, but families do drift apart. They move to other areas. If your relationship in your retirement years is going to be defined by that relationship with your family, you may be in for some bad news, because what happens if your daughter gets a job offer in Texas?
Yeah.
Right? Are you going to move in order to be close to them grandbabies?
And
right?
We see that too.
We see it all the time, right? Yeah. So just kind of keep that in mind, that family dynamic, and how much of your identity as a retiree revolves around being the parent of an adult, or being a grandparent or a great-grandparent.
Yeah.
There's got to be more to it than that, or you're probably going to be kind of lonely.
Yeah. So I think two more big topics for sure that I want to touch on. One is renting or owning in retirement.
Okay. Specifically renting or owning, I'm assuming
your home.
Your home.
Your
okay.
home, yeah.
All right.
And we have this conversation a ton with clients about whether or not they should pay off their mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And especially when you have, some of these interest rates that, they may have refinanced a few years ago, when you have these sub 3-4% interest rates, and, they spend all this time and all this money to get these things paid off, that they'll never get those interest rates back.
Right.
And of course, the question I always ask is, what's your house going to pay you once you pay it off?
Where's the spot in the brick siding where you can stick your ATM card into the house and get a couple $1,000s out, right?
So, but anyway, kind of aside from whether or not you pay off the mortgage, just the idea of renting versus owning your home, because I hear this a lot. I want to be debt-free in retirement. I can't have debt. I don't want any expenses. I can't have debt, and I have to own my home. Renting is a much more favorable to a lot of folks.
To some people.
Depending upon your lifestyle. And especially as you get older, and maybe it's just you and the spouse, and, do you really need a big yard to take care of all the time, constantly? Do you really want to be responsible for fixing all the things that, break? Right. I just had to replace the roof on my house this month.
Yep.
It was not cheap. I am waiting for my HVAC to go out. It's 25 years old.
Oh, it's coming.
It's coming. I've been expecting it to come for the past 3-4 years. It hasn't happened yet. Knock on wood. I'm just kidding. I said that it's going to happen this month, right?
Your furnace is going to blow up when you turn it on next month.
But at some point, I'm going to have to replace my HVAC system, and that will not be cheap. The wife wants to paint and do some repairs around the house. None of that stuff's cheap anymore. And one of the biggest fallacies out there is your house is an investment. Your house is not an investment. Your primary residence, I should say, is not an investment. If you think of your primary residence as an investment, it is such a horrible investment. It's a god-awful investment. When you actually, because most people only think about their primary residence as, I bought it at $300 and I sold it for $600 and I doubled my money. No, you didn't. Did we count the mortgage interest and property taxes and homeowners insurance and all the repairs and just, how many lawnmowers did you buy and how much mulch did you buy?
But more importantly than that, for you to get that $300,000 in equity out of it and keep it,
you had to sell it.
You had to sell the house.
Yeah.
This is not an investment property. That's a different animal. It's primary residence.
And so many baby boomers have so much of their wealth tied up into their homes. Yeah. And we hear, it's a very common refrain that we hear is, what am I going to do? How do I access all of this money? How do I access all this money in my house? I want to downsize. What should I do? And I'm like, well, have you thought about renting? There's nothing wrong with renting. You can take the money out, and now all of a sudden you have liquid. You have liquid cash. You have liquid investments that you have available to you to be able to do the things that you want to do in retirement that are going to make you happy.
By the way, when you're renting your primary residence, you don't have to pay homeowners insurance. Now, you should have a renter's insurance policy.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay for homeowners insurance. You don't have property taxes that you have to pay. There's more to it.
When the toilet breaks,
you call somebody and they come fix it.
You don't have to cut. You don't. It will depend upon where you're living.
Right.
But if you're like in an apartment complex or someplace like that, you don't have to cut the grass. Right. There's all kinds of benefits to renting too. And I'm not saying that's going to be the right answer for everyone, but I've brought this up enough I've brought this topic up enough with clients. where I see the immediate reaction is almost they're just aghast. Like, how could you suggest I rent? I'm a homeowner. Like you're looking, it's almost like they're looking down upon renters. And I'm like, it is a lifestyle decision, especially if maybe you're if you're single, you're by yourself, having a, 3,000 square foot home to take care of by yourself. That's a lot.
As you get older, you might not be physically capable of taking care of said home.
And then what are you doing? You're hiring people to do it for you. Right. So it's costing you money to live in a house that you own. So sometimes downsizing and renting is not the worst option in the world. A lot of it is just tell me about the lifestyle that you want to live. Tell me about the things that you want to do. So I'm just basically throwing all this out there to dispel the notion that you have to be a fully 100% homeowner in order to have a successful retirement.
Right. I think the real summary there is you're not suggesting they should rent or they should own. You're suggesting that keep your options open, weigh out what's going to be in your best interest, and don't go with generalized advice when it comes to that.
Yeah, and as long as and I hear this a lot, I have to be debt-free. Okay, and usually it's in relation to the mortgage. If you build that into your cash flow, you can still build a very successful retirement income plan while you're paying a mortgage.
Yep. The key word that you used there was plan.
Yes.
You didn't wing it. You had a plan of attack on how to deal with that mortgage, even though you're no longer working.
Yep. So, and definitely one more, and we can maybe have some other ancillary topics, but one more kind of big topic I want to touch on is travel now or travel later.
Okay.
And we speak with clients a lot about what they should expect to spend, specifically in kind of the first 5 to 10 years of retirement. And we say this, and a lot of times it kind of, opens some eyes and gives them some food for thought. But a lot of times we'd tell them, and most of our clients are surprised to hear that usually you're going to spend more money. Your lifestyle is going to increase those first 5 to 10 years of your retirement. The reason being, you have all this time, and you're going to need to spend that time doing something, and it's probably something that's going to cost money. Or you're crossing off all the bucket list items, as you should, right? But, a lot of times you're going to be spending a lot more money in your lifestyle. There is going to be lifestyle creep as you enter into retirement, and it's something that you need to prepare for. But we have heard, maybe I'll hold off on this trip, for a little while, just because, I'm just starting to take in, cash flow from my investments. I don't want to take too much at once, and, all this stuff, right? And, I have a story, and I know you probably have some stories about whether or not you should travel now versus travel later. But what are your thoughts on that first before I get to?
Well, we were talking about this before we started recording. It depends on the type of travel you're going to do, your ability to do it. Now, I'm not talking about the expense. I'm talking about the physical part. So you and I were talking about going on a cruise in the Caribbean, right? If you've ever been on a cruise, then there are quite a few people on those cruises that are in wheelchairs, things like that. And they can go and they can have a lot of fun in that environment. On the other hand, if you want to go to Europe, especially the older parts of Europe, they are not handicap friendly in a lot of places. You're dealing with stuff that was built 1,000 years ago. You're dealing with cobblestone streets. My sister went to Venice on a trip a couple of years ago, and they had all kinds of commuting problems getting she was with a group, from the plane to their hotel. And they ended up, all these people with their luggage, with their little cheap rollers on it, and they had to not only go down over 2 miles of cobblestone streets, but they also had to go over bridges that have steps. Okay, Americans are kind of spoiled in that there's always a ramp, there's always an elevator, there's always a way to get there. That's not true.
The ADA compliance issues aren't quite the same.
Yeah, that doesn't work in different places. So I would suggest, if you're going to be doing some traveling, if you want to go to places where you might not be physically capable later, you might want to do that stuff a little bit earlier. Another suggestion, the Holy Land, right? Okay, this is one that's a bucket list item for a lot of people, but you're talking about a part of the world that's perfectly safe 1 minute, and a month later, there's a very good chance that you'll be part of a terrorist attack or a bombing or God only knows what, because it's such a fluid situation there. And we're currently, looks like we're going to have this great peace deal. We've had great peace deals before.
Yeah.
All right. This has been going on for thousands of years. This is not a new problem. So if you get an opportunity to go, and I'm speaking from experience on this one, I had an opportunity to go to the Holy Land many, many years ago, long before I was married. It was going to cost me, are you ready? You got to figure in inflation. It was a 6-day, I believe. Lunch and dinner was included, everything. All I had to do was pay for the airfare, which was cheap. I was stationed overseas. It was going to cost me $700. This was at a time where the Middle East was very placid as things go. And I chose not to go because I didn't have anybody to go with me. Remember, I'm an extrovert.
Yeah.
I will regret that until the day that I actually get to go, which that may never happen. So when it's now or later, if you know, you can go now. All right. You're financially capable of it. You're physically capable. The geopolitical situations allow for it. Man, don't put that off. You will regret that. Right. You will.
I had a client that was in Israel October 7th a couple years ago.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I remember you telling me that story. Golly.
Yeah. It's obviously a horrible, horrible day. It's a very interesting story about her situation and how she got out, and she was actually very, very lucky to get out the way that she did. She got out pretty quickly, but yeah, it was she was telling me the story about that day. Yeah, and it was insane. It was a very insane story, but she was very, very lucky. But
if you can do it now, we're talking about retirees. We're not talking about people who are still in their working years. You're already retired, and this is something that you want to go and do, and everything's lining up where now is a good time to do it. Do not put that off. My dad still talks about how he wanted to go back to Alaska.
Yeah, it's not going to happen now.
It's not going to happen because he doesn't have anybody to go with him. And physically, I don't know that he could if he wanted to, right?
Well, my mom, it's interesting. So she's at an age now where, she's mid to late 60s, later in her 60s. And she's still able to do the stuff that she wants to do. She's still able to travel, and she's kind of getting disappointed because some of her old travel mates are not able to keep up with her anymore. And so she's been getting a little bit frustrated and a little bit sad about it, which I totally understand. But she actually just went on a trip to Italy with the Archdiocese. And so it was a big group trip, and definitely out of her comfort zone, as she didn't know anybody beforehand anyway. But it was recommended to her by someone else, and so she ended up going along on this trip, had a great time. But it was all through Italy. They flew into Rome and they did the Vatican. She sent me pictures of the Pope in the Pope Mobile. Actually, she was at St. Peter's, so she got to see the Pope. So that was really cool. But when I picked her up from the airport, one of the first things that she told me when we got in the car recounting the trip was, there were some ladies on this trip that should not have been on this trip.
Okay, define.
And she meant it not to be mean, but she said there were some ladies in their late 70s that they had to do everything for them.
Yeah.
They were not capable of taking care of themselves. And so they were having to carry the luggage and move the luggage for them, and just all of the travel that was involved in a trip through Europe, a trip through Italy, because it wasn't just one city. I mean, they were going to multiple cities. Of course, there were a lot of times on buses and stuff like that. But she was, pretty adamant that these ladies should not have been on this trip.
They no doubt didn't enjoy it as much as they would have 10 years prior physically.
And the people that were with her did not enjoy it as much,
not.
because clearly my mom was bringing. That was like one of the first things that my mom mentioned about this trip was they were having to help these older ladies.
I didn't come over here to be a porter.
And they were very nice. And they were very nice. Yeah. It wasn't an issue with they didn't like them. Right. It was just a matter of fact that they were not capable of making that trip at that age any longer. Yeah. I was talking about the trip that my wife and I made to Europe, and I'm glad that we did it in our 40s because, I mean, we could probably go back when we're 70, but we wouldn't be able to do that same trip the same way that we did this time.
You wouldn't be able to walk 30,000 steps a day.
There's no way. There's no way. And we walked everywhere, and, we ate all kinds of stuff, and, there's no way I'd be able to do that when I'm 70, right? So there's a huge thing to say about getting experiences done while you're still young enough to enjoy them. I've got a buddy of mine who's also a client. He and his wife started doing river cruises in Europe. They're like, hey, we can enjoy it now. We've got some money. We've got some flexibility. The boys are a little bit older. why would we wait? We're going to get the most enjoyment. We're going to be able to do the most stuff on these trips today while we're still relatively young. We're going to get far more enjoyment in making these trips in our 40s than we are when we're 70s, because it's just not going to be nearly as enjoyable. So if you do have those bucket list trips, it behooves you to try to get those things done sooner rather than later in retirement. That's not even to count on health being an issue, right?
Especially for married couples, one or both of you will eventually start having medical issues. And then the one who's still healthy, their life mate that they really want to go do things with, they can't go anymore. So, and I do want to clarify something you were saying, sooner rather than later. Totally agree. We're not talking about people like the younger generations are all about getting all these experiences while they're young. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about spending every penny that you make to travel when you're 25 years old.
Yeah, I'm definitely not talking about being irresponsible.
We're talking about people who are at or near retirement, doing the things that they can afford to do while they're still healthy enough that they're going to enjoy it, and not going so far that it takes away from what if you live longer than planned. We're talking about responsible go-do.
Yep. What's up, Bourbon?
What do you think?
I've been holding on to this.
All right,
review.
what do you think? Because you have torn that up. Did you ever try it with a little water in it at all?
No, I don't need to. I don't need to. It's funny too, because this afternoon I'm going to the dentist, and they're gonna
make sure you go.
I need to chew some gum before I get there. She's gonna think I have a serious problem. But this is definitely, especially for a 7-year, this is one of the most flavorful pours I've had.
I cannot imagine what this would be like at 12. It might be too much.
There's a lot going on here. At 116, it's I don't want to say it's too smooth. It's smooth, but I mean there's a lot going. There's a lot of flavors. A ton of butterscotch, a ton of honey.
Yep.
I like weed. I mean it's a little bit sweet. It is a weeded bourbon. This is a good pour.
Yep.
I'm a fan of this.
I picked up everything that you said, and there was just the slight little hint of cinnamon.
Yeah, perhaps.
Even
when you nose it, just the nose is just fantastic.
I put
it's strong.
2 drops of water in it, just 2. Swirled it around a little bit. At first, the cinnamon got a little stronger, and then it faded off completely. So I'm not really sure what happened there. But what is left in my glass is absolutely a liquid Werther's Original.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic, right? This is, to your point, for a 7-year-old bourbon. I mean, well done, man. Oh, my gosh, this stuff is good. So now I know why you said, does he still have it? Go back and get some more.
It's definitely not an everyday drinker. It's strong, right? And it's very, very flavorful.
Yeah. And
I like it a lot.
I'd see, to me, I don't get a heavy, this is really high proof stuff. I don't get that. Well, this is definitely not a 90 proof. Yeah. But this is not, it doesn't feel like it's screaming hot or anything.
I wouldn't say
that.
It tastes like a 116, but it definitely tastes, it feels probably somewhere in the 100 to 105 range.
There was one that we did several weeks back that we were like, this does not taste as high proof as it is. You'd have to be a little careful because this will sneak up on you because of the alcohol content. It just doesn't taste like that. I think this is another one that's like that.
What was the range on this?
As far as
price?
I'm going to be honest with you. I do not remember. I think that this bottle was $85.
Okay.
But that was a year and a half ago, and I've bought quite a few bottles since then. And I did not, I've got a little app. You've seen it. Where you can track your bourbon.
Yeah.
It's called Only Drams. You got to be very careful when you say that it doesn't mean something different. DRAMS. It's a little $5 app that I've got that you can actually track what you've got and what its value, stuff like that is. When I bought this bottle, I did not enter the price that I paid for it. Okay. So I don't remember what it was.
You have a bourbon problem when you have an app to keep track.
Yeah, I do.
Maybe it's not a bourbon problem. Maybe it's a bourbon.
I have an app to keep track of my infinity bottles as well, which is a totally different issue. That's something that might be fun to bring in an infinity bottle.
Infinity bottle,
yeah. So we might do that one, and we'll have a little talk about what an infinity bottle is, and so on and so forth.
So, you got any final words of wisdom on what to think about when you prepare for and live in retirement?
One of the questions that we had talked about going into was, from a retiree's point of view, if I could go back to my 55-year-old self and give them one piece of advice, what would it be? Have a plan. Mm-hmm. That would be the main thing. And when I say a plan, I don't mean, well, I'm going to work till I'm 62. I'm going to quit my job, take my pension, file for Social Security, and sit on my butt. That's not a plan, right? I'm talking about a comprehensive, there's that word that we hate again, plan for here's what I'm going to do, here's when I'm going to do it, here's how I'm going to do it. That way I have something to look forward to other than not working anymore.
And you need, I'll add this too, because you always need something to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's a trip on the calendar, whether it's, a grandbaby on the way, some home renovation that's about to be done, you need something on the calendar. You need something to look
forward to.
Something to look forward to, right? Whether someone's getting married or there has to be an event on the calendar that you look forward to keep you kind of going, and that's another big thing too as well. So
I will wrap it up at that.
Well, good deal. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us on part 2 on how to prepare for and live in retirement. If anything that we said today strikes you as something you'd like to have a deeper conversation about, check the show notes, give us a call, go to our website, schedule a call. We would love to chat with you in any more detail and help you out. Otherwise, thanks for listening. Join us next time.